Right then, after a few days scrubbing the internet of all of his tweets, his entire social media history and everything else, because they needed a week to do that, didn't they? They've finally released the details of the Widecombe suspect. So we're going to have to go through it, aren't we? But before we get started, can I just say, look at the clip of him. Look at him. Fat, geggy, balding soy boy. I could have guessed it was him. If I just brushed past him on the street one day, I could have just went, it was him. It was him. He killed Anne Widecombe. he reeks of it. One glance in his general direction and I could have pinned it on him. I'd be like Poirot. But how do you know, Mr. Bootneck? Weaponised soy, that's why. Right, here he is. Premium unleaded AAA weapons grade soy boy. There he is, obviously. There's Anne. And the story starts. Born in Rotherham, Kerry was raised with his elder brother and half-brother by their teaching assistant mother. He was such a quiet boy, gentle and polite. Isn't it weird how whenever you get a deranged left-wing killer, a stone-cold killer who bludgeons an old lady to death, they're all lining up to tell you stories about how much of a nice, quiet, reasonable boy he was. Now we should all feel really sorry for him. But if someone like me gets nicked for, I don't know, do you remember when that fella was pissed at one of the Patriot protests and he had a swamp a bit near a plaque for a dead copper and he got like jailed for it? He probably didn't even know it was there. Then they run stories like this beast. They use all the pejoratives in the headlines and in the text as well, don't they? Here is the monster who dared to put some graffiti on a big golden bell-end-shaped church. Oh my God, we followed him back to his lair in a council estate, like that type of drivel. It's weird how they're always giving him the benefit of the doubt, isn't it? Such a nice, quiet boy. They said the same thing about Axel Rudu Kanubu, didn't they? Deluged us with pictures of him dressed up in his nice blazer and tie and talked about how he was a quiet boy and he loved Doctor Who. And absolutely no mention of the fact he knifed little girls in the face. I mean, you'd think that was more relevant to current affairs, but what do I know? Then we get another few paragraphs talking about play fighting with him when he was a kid. Don't care, don't care, don't care. And his neighbour said that he was in shock over the arrest because he was such a pleasant, quiet as a mouse guy from a lovely family. His mum and brothers were great. I couldn't speak highly enough of them. So this is just a puff piece by the Daily Mail making out that he was a splendid fellow. Let's get down to brass tacks, shall we? Here's another piece of the puzzle from the Telegraph. Left-wing group deletes article calling Widecombe homophobic. And they did a lot worse than that. A lot worse than that. It was a hit piece. It was filled with smears and lies and hatred. And that's what they do, okay? They paint you as being evil. Pure evil that deserves any ignominy, any abuse, any humiliation, perhaps even any physical act via the medium of cricket bat on your kitchen floor, because this is what these hateful people do. Unlike us stupid, silly old-fashioned conservative types who frequently defend our political opponents and say, no, of course I don't agree with the politics, but you shouldn't be locking them up for merely saying things, they have a different opinion. Nick Lowles and his ilk constantly rabble-rouse and promote violence. They do it all the time, but because they're left-wing, they're allowed to do it. Me, I can't make a quip. I can't make a quip without getting my collar felt, but they promote violence. That's what they do. Everybody knows it. I'm sure you've all seen the deleted article. Fortunately, many people saved it. It's floating around on Twitter. It was virulent hatred, right? Disagreeing with someone politically doesn't make you evil. Anne Widecombe, shit, she said stuff I didn't agree with. That's just called a difference of opinion. I've made this point very many times. Roger Scruton talked about it. Thousands of conservative scholars and writers have talked about it. We think the left are naive, idealistic, and stupid. They think you are pure evil, and therefore why it's almost moral to break into your house and bludgeon you to death on your kitchen floor. Of course it is, because you're evil. You remember when David Lammy actually went on the BBC and said this.
By implication, you're comparing the ERG to the Nazi Party, or at least to the South African racists. Now, whatever you think about the ERG, that was an unacceptable comparison, wasn't it?
Andrew, I would say that wasn't strong enough.
Do I need to keep talking? Do I need to keep talking? The whole point of this video was going to be that the rhetoric of left-wing MPs, left-wing councillors, politicians, activists, journalists, judges, lawyers, all of them. The rhetoric that they use turns what does seem like a relatively ordinary fella, like the aforementioned soy boy, it turns them into killers. And there's probably about 1 million ticking time bombs all across the Western world now because of the rhetoric they've used against Trump, Farage, Charlie Kirk. Trump's dodged more bullets than me, and I went to war 5 times. Okay, that's how bad it's got because of the rhetoric. And then Lambtron makes a statement like that. Compares Tory, wet, limp-wristed, centrist Tory Brexiteers to worse than Adolf's boys. So can you blame them? Can you blame them? If you've been exposed to rhetoric like that for the last decade, can you blame insular shut-ins for driving 500 miles to cave people's heads in? They've been told that it's a moral, decent, righteous thing to do. There's loads of tweets. Honestly, if I was going to throw them up, I'd be here all day. There's another one. Jess Phillips called Anne Widecombe a fascist beast. A fascist beast. And then when she gets the obvious happen to her, because of rhetoric like that, and Lammy, they go, nothing to do with me, governor. Can I make it any clearer? I think that bit of video, that story, that headline, and that tweet sum up all you need to see. So should we call it there? Should we leave it early? Although, one more point I want to make. When a clearly mentally ill ex-Bootneck drove a car through a load of people, and it turned out that it wasn't even politically motivated at all. We knew what his former job was, where he was from, what he was called, what he looked like, and apparently that he was right-wing. Well, we knew that within 2 hours of him getting arrested. But why did it take them a week to name and shame this oxygen thief? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they needed a week to scrub every trace of his social media history from the internet so that we couldn't prove 100% that he was a left-wing activist. So we haven't got much by way of evidence, but fortunately, because this is the problem with telling lies, even when the state and the coppers and the intelligence services and Tobias Shitwood and all these assets are doing the very best to hide the truth from the general public, they only have to miss a scrap. And one of the 50 million people who uses the internet looking for things like this will turn something up. And guess what they found? Lo and behold, Fact Push is right on the record. Joshua Kerry, Rotherham, signed a September 2025 open letter for a new left Your Party. Signature 1505. It pushes left unity, Corbyn's Sultana reconciliation, and features Palestinian activists. Name and exact location match. The named suspect is strong circumstantial evidence of the same person. So, there we have it. They've spent a week lying here, just like they did with Axel Rudu Kanubu, lying here, hiding things from you, obfuscating, because they didn't want to accept the fact that he was reading the AQ training manual and preparing ricin because he was a member of the snack bar and definitely a terrorist, even though none of his murders were ever attributed to that, when I'll let you be the judge of that whole bollocks scenario. And this fella, they've spent a week scrubbing his profiles off the internet because they don't want you to talk about it. I've just proved it. They caused Anne Widecombe's murder. Lammy is culpable. Phillips is culpable. Starmer is culpable. Dozens of journalists are culpable. Owen Jones, the BBC, they promote murder, and when it does happen, they hide and lie and cheat and connive to make it seem as if it's purely an accident. He was a crazy man. He could have just done it to any old lady in the street. He just drove 400 miles for a laugh. It's a farce. You know it. I know it. The left-wing ideology is toxic and murderous and drenched in oceans and oceans of blood. All right? Short but sweet, that. I think the evidence speaks for itself. So I'll shut up now. Thanks for tuning in. If you disagree and you think, this guy was a conservative, despite the fact he's basically a meme of a soy boy, please let me know in the comments so I can rip the piss out of you mercilessly. All right? And if you agree, I suppose you can comment as well. Thanks for tuning in. See you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.